Just a warning here, guys. There may be some language in this episode because of the person we interviewed today. Hello, all C-Rank recruits. Welcome to the World Trigger Podcast. I'm talented elite agent Matt M, and with me, as always, is Renji A-Rank. Renji, how's it going?
Well, it seems that this episode of the World Trigger Podcast, we have a very delightful guest with us today.
Yes, you're right. With us today is our newest recruit, promoted to B-Rank. B-Rank agent Christopher Larios, more famously known as Rollot of the Weekly Manga Recap Podcast. Agent Larios, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Or I guess if you're higher ranked than I am, I guess I have to address you as sirs.
I think technically we all know that you're the one that outranks us overall.
I would say let's do away with the formalities then. We're all on the same level here.
Fair enough.
Agreed.
So, how's it been going, Chris?
It's been going very well. It's a busy time for me. I've been in some transitionary periods in my life, so things are busy but going in a good direction. So it's all exciting stuff to look forward to, more or less. But there's a hole in my heart every week that I wish World Trigger would come back and fill. Unfortunately, every week I'm still disappointed.
Same.
We've got to keep that positivity, man. That's why we're doing this. And we can't just let it slide up under the rocks.
Yeah, I've been attempting desperately to keep promoting the series as much as I can. I just got out of a convention here this past weekend, Colossal Con, and I used World Trigger as a question in one of the panels I was running.
Oh, very cool.
Yep.
Is that the one that was in PA?
No, it was the one in Ohio, Sandusky, Ohio.
Okay.
They do have a Colossal Con East that's in PA.
Okay, that one hasn't happened yet, though, right?
Correct. That's happening this, I think this fall. It's going to be happening.
This fall. Okay, that sounded more right. All right.
Yeah, I also was promoting the unofficial Osamu fan club as my final trivia question.
Did you get a whole bunch of new listeners? Has Annalisa achieved like a new level yet?
Unfortunately, no, not yet. I've had some of my own weird personal issues crop up, and it's preventing me from being a full recruiter at this time.
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole issue with, what's his name? What's the guy in Tomacoma that works the part-time job that's always fooling Konami?
Scruffy Hottie.
Yes. Man.
I don't remember his name off the top of my head.
It's not Renji, is it?
No, it's not Renji. Renji's our co-host.
But no, isn't that Muscular Beefcake?
No, that's Quiet Beefcake.
Quiet Beefcake? Isn't that Quiet Beefcake?
Yeah.
He's not that quiet, but
it's true.
Thought it was.
Doesn't he work the grocery store job?
No, it's Karasuma. Karasuma's the one.
Karasuma. Oh, okay. It's the other one.
Yeah. Renji's the sniper. Karasuma's the part-time worker, and Konami is, well, Konami.
To my knowledge, I no longer work for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. However, when I did, there was a quote board that they wanted us to put inspirational quotes on. I worked in our training division.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually just took a quote that Karasumo said in like a chapter that had come out at that time about how like visualize your ideal techniques, and that is what training is for. So I put that quote up on the board with his name, and everyone just assumed it was like some Japanese philosopher. No one's aware that a quote from World Trigger is still on like their bold quotes board in the training division over in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's PennDOT. So I hold that like as a point of pride that World Trigger's being represented in state government somewhere.
That is very, very prideful.
Man, that is awesome, dude. Like, you don't realize, like, that's getting us a step. Well, I would say a step closer, even though it's kind of a little bit under the radar.
We're a step closer to having World Trigger having a position in official government. I almost feel like, the next step is gaining Osamu or maybe just the border logo into a state flag somewhere.
That could.
Like I feel like Arizona has a lot of blank space on their flag. They could fit it in there somewhere.
Yeah. Possibly Arizona. I would almost say, because I know World Trigger was recently in the top 20 of the best-selling manga, like in the most recent sales numbers coming through. So that's also another point in its popularity still.
That is a good thing to note for it.
Yeah.
You just don't hear much about it.
No, I don't think anyone actually knows about it. And Chris, how would you actually describe World Trigger, if you don't mind me asking? Like, overall, to someone who has never heard of World Trigger before.
If it's somebody who's at least regularly kind of familiar with the concept of a battle manga, I would explain that it's a battle manga combined with almost like a real-time strategy game or some kind of like tactical RPG that places. It's part battle manga, part like not unintentional harem series, I feel like, and then the other part is tactical RPG as told via the vehicle of a battle manga. It's something that can only be like truly comprehended, I feel like, once you get into it, and as long as you enjoy intelligence alongside your battling and your fighting.
Okay. You enjoy intelligence if you're into League of Legends, right?
Yeah. I feel like it definitely would fit into that. Anyone who's into kind of like a MOBA or any kind of like tactical element video games of any kind of variety, I think would be able to enjoy it. And it's not to say that other series are dumb in comparison to World Trigger. It's just World Trigger is one of the few that really makes a point of utilizing the rules it's established and then tactics within its fights to create interesting conclusions.
Okay, because most of the time I have been describing World Trigger as kind of a mix of a shonen battle series and an MMO RPG.
Yeah, and I could see that too, because there's very firmly established roles within it with your back line, I don't know if you call them tanks, but the attackers who are meant to get into melee, your supporters with the operators. There are very clearly defined roles within it that people can kind of like, as you read it, almost start to imagine what you would be were you in that kind of position.
Exactly, and it has its elements as being a sport as well. Like I could see World Trigger actually adapting to, like, you know how they have all these like fidget spinners or frisbees and stuff, kind of like, I imagine World Trigger becoming like maybe an Olympic sport one day, because you could easily set it up like people can use like, you know, Nerf guns, well, something similar to it, and have their Trion based on how many, you know, miles and kilometers they can run on their stamina, and pretty much adapt to where they can have attackers and stuff come out, and whenever you hit somebody, like, they lose a certain amount of points based off of the type of weapon they're using, and well, they wouldn't be able to scale on the technique, but I could see World Trigger becoming close enough to an Olympic sport.
I would even be I think it would even be possible to see with the advent of kind of good VR technology that you could even turn it into a very realistic game, because, like you said, the elements of it being like a sport are already there, and you could do like a physical version and things like that. I feel like you could even take it to a different level at some point too, if you get the technology working to that degree to make it like a VR game where, you know, your actions are all still present within the game, but that ability to like cut someone's arm off and have that be a point going forward and things like that would definitely be something that's, I don't know how realistic it is, but it's certainly possible, which is, I think, a little bit of a fun part of World Trigger to kind of enjoy and contemplate at times.
Yeah. Exactly. It's kind of like you having your own football team. Like, some people be rooting for Tomokoma, and some people be rooting for Suzunari.
And I'm that one dude with a flag that just says "Go Osamu and Kitora," and it's very small, like comically small, like it's on a toothpick, and everyone's like, "Why did you bother making it that small? You made it. You could have made it as big as you want." I'm just like, I know where my pride is.
Well, that actually kind of works.
I'm with you on that one, Rolo.
Well, that
Finally, champion to go alongside me.
Well, that actually kind of leads me into my next question. When did you actually start becoming a fan of? I like to call him the Rudy of World Trigger, as in Osamu.
Osamu? I guess it was something that kind of came about as our enjoyment of the series goes. I mean, it's somewhat well known if you listen to Weekly Manga Recap that originally when we started discussing World Trigger, Nick and I were not big fans of it. But that eventually changed about a little after 20 chapters in during the whole.
I remember.
Yeah, I can't remember what they called that arc. I guess it would have been the Yuma retrieval arc. I don't know what you'd call it, but it was when Tachikawa and his group went to go get Yuma out of Tamakoma, and there was that big fight between them and Ashihara Squad and all that. That was where we really kind of turned on the series. And I think it just kind of came about afterwards that as I started to enjoy the series, I kind of latched onto the character that I found myself most relating to and most enjoying, which was the struggle of Osamu, who is this completely normal guy who really doesn't have anything special about him beyond his desire to be not even be the best, but to just be a helpful element in things, and he's willing to do anything it takes to kind of get there, no matter how hard it may be. And I found that just to be a very unique kind of I don't know, pseudo protagonist. I guess there's still debate on whether it's Yuma or Osamu who's the actual protagonist of the series, dual protagonist, however it might be. But just a unique character within Jump to focus on their whole natural talent versus hard work narrative that's just kind of been ubiquitous through Jump. Osamu kind of tells that in a way that normally isn't done in Jump. Normally the idea is hard work kind of can help really catch you up if you're just that devoted. But like all things in World Trigger, Ashihara kind of takes a more realistic look at that, and it notes that although Osamu is making progress, the notion's always there that no matter how hard he works, there are people who are just going to be better than him because they're naturally talented and work hard, and there's still a place for him regardless. And I just love that kind of characterization.
You just hit it right on there, because I feel the same way about Osamu. Like, that's the reason why he's one of my favorite characters too, because not only do I see him, well, I kind of don't see him as being like, just a regular guy, but I see him as someone that he's able to utilize what he has no matter if he's at a disadvantage. Like, he knows his disadvantages, and he knows the other person's advantages over his, and he's able to contemplate and utilize that and put it to the best he can do. He knows for a fact that all those people and border, like, they're pretty much ahead of him, but he doesn't really care because he knows he's going to gain the experience overall. And another thing that's mentioned is, he's not a hero per se as a character, but he's the type to me, Osamu is assertive, like, and humble, because he knows what he can do, what he's capable of, but he believes in going, even steps further to that, because whether he's talented or not, I think Osamu's talented because of the simple fact that despite all the odds, he's able to come up with those tactics, man. Those tactics, even though there are other people who can come up with just as good amount of tactics, the things that he's done is working constantly. He's getting results, and that's to me that matters. Like, to me, that's his talent, is to be able to be on the backside and still be able to catch up and keep up with the higher end people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's I think my favorite part of his kind of journey is just seeing this guy who ultimately just wants to be better and is willing to do anything it takes to get there. And part of that means just the hard work he'll undergo to get to that point, to try to catch up as much as he can, but also that he'll be willing to make any kind of sacrifice.
Yes.
It's sort of undersold, even though it was probably the biggest moment in World Trigger to that point. It still feels undersold just how incredible that moment is in the invasion arc, where he abandons his Tryon body to just continue pushing a little bit further to get Chica outside of Hyrene's hands. I mean, it's an insane kind of idea that we hadn't seen a border agent to that point really feel like their life was on the line, because they've always been in these disposable bodies that they can just eject out of and be safe. But this was one time where someone put their life on the line, and it felt huge, because you just in that moment realized how much Osamu was willing to go for his objectives, to save his friends, to protect everybody.
I'd even argue that throughout the invasion arc that they weren't even safe even in their Tryon bodies.
No.
Because they were.
Oh yeah.
Because they were all getting turned into Tryon cubes.
True, and that is a good point. I guess the alternative is, even in that, the notion is still that they could be restored and used, or if they're captured, or restored and saved should they get the cube back. But when Osamu went into his human form, there wasn't going to be a cubification process or anything like that. Hyrene's bullets would have just outright killed him.
Oh no, I agree completely. Like that was like the single defining moment. I put that as the moment that makes Osamu the main character.
Yeah. That's kind of what I would look to too. And I know there are people who are going to argue, like, well, who gets on the cover of Shonen Jump for World Trigger, and who's the first character in the the character bios. And I think Yuna has a good point in being that. But if you were to at least look at it as dual protagonists, it's definitely that aspect that makes Osamu so compelling, is just the fact that we're really seeing humongous growth out of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the main thing. That's the whole point of I would say my reasoning for watching World Trigger so far is to see where Osamu's come from and to keep seeing that progress. Like, that progress is what has me on the edge of my seat every time I watch it. And, like, you know how most anime and manga that you read, like, sometimes you read it once and you don't really have to go back. Like, with World Trigger, I find myself, like, every now and then, I can literally go back and rewatch the series time and again, because every time I find out something different, or I look at it from a different perspective, and I just keep, having that edge of, like, man, this guy, like, you really connect with him. Like, you really want to see the outcomes of what he's capable of, and everybody underestimates him. And they actually, if you think about it, they go harder on Osamu than they do other people. I'm not sure if most of you guys have noticed that, but to me, they're lenient when it comes to other fighters, but when it comes to Osamu, they just do him really bad. Like, they go extra hard. They give him really no leeway to, improve. Because I seen that with Karasuma when they were doing training. Like, Karasuma just pretty much kind of like bullied him. And I think it's because of the simple fact that where Osamu was at, like, they know that he's not that good, but whenever they're fighting him, it's like, this guy is really not that bad, and they try to do, it's kind of like they're trying to do everything they can, to kind of stifle him, but not stifle him. I'm not sure if that's the right way to word it, but they go a lot harder on Osamu than they go on all the other characters.
Yeah, there's that aspect of tough love that they give him, I think, partially because most everyone in Border that he kind of deals with and trains with knows at least a portion of what he's trying to do, or can see it. And I think they kind of realize that because of his innate deficiencies and, Tryon control and things like that, that he needs to be pushed without any kind of leeway. It's sort of that, you got to pressure a rock to turn into a diamond kind of thing. They have to kind of be as hard on him as possible. And in some characters, too, it also has another layer to it. Like, I think part of the reason Kitora is so tough on him, too, is partially because she sees some of herself in him, at least when it comes to being somebody who wants to be the best, but comes from a natural disadvantage with their Tryon levels.
Exactly. I also think that deep down, I think she really likes him, too. I think aside from
Obviously, they're the one true pairing of World Trigger.
I also think that there's a triangle too. I think Konami likes him too, since her being really powerful, but at the same time, seeing where Osamu comes from, she's actually come on to, from what I've seen, she's come on to respect him a lot more than at the beginning. So I kind of see this triangle in the future because notice how the character popularity, like there's a high popularity with Konami. Like she just has that her appearance just makes her like one day something's gonna happen with Konami that coincides with Osamu, and then I think they're gonna have a triangle. What do you think?
I would think that Osamu he's focused on getting better right now. So in my mind, he's not going to be focused on finding love in the world of Trigger. However, that's for off time. That's for fan fictions. That's for those sorts of things. But in my mind, if he were to go after somebody, or I don't even go after somebody, but if romantic tensions were to come in, I feel like Osamu is such an honest boy that he wouldn't be able to like play two sides of things. But I think if you were to go with anything, he'd probably he'd go after whoever actually shows real affection for him. Like if there is anything between him and Kitora, it's not obvious. Like she definitely is always like, Attaboy, ugly, 4 eyes, scoot, and pushing him to the wall and stuff. He's not going to reciprocate that. Unless it's my fan fiction, in which case, then they start having wild, passionate love on the floor. But in that case, he might go for Konami just because she'll probably be forthright with her any affection if there is some.
I think there's someone else that also kind of may sort of agree with you there, Chris. But have you heard of the abridging group, Team Oda R?
Yes.
So you are aware they're World Trigger abridged?
Yes, they actually Oda R was the name of a One Piece role-playing forum that I had created, and they are a group of members who came from that, kind of got together off that forum and entered into when Team 4 Star was doing an abridging contest, and they've been doing World Trigger abridged.
Yeah, I kind of saw a couple of their episodes, and I think they gave Kitora your Russian Kitora accent.
Oh my goodness.
To be fair, it is Nick's Russian Kitora accent. I do not have the same ability to do that Russian stalwart voice, I guess the heavy voice, I don't know what you'd call it per se, but I don't quite have Nick's baritone for his Kitora voice. But it is a solid interpretation of that character as like the cold Russian woman.
That is surprisingly accurate. Another episode. I know you don't watch the anime, Chris, but are you?
I've seen episodes here and there, but in general, I don't watch many anime.
No, I'm aware, but have you seen like screenshots of the anime, like during their little filler after one of the rank wars? They had like these alien neighboring like princess and her bodyguard, and then it went to the pool episodes. Cliche.
No, I don't think I've seen those per se. Are there any?
Man.
Are there any great swimsuit shots? Or should I be looking those up right now?
I can.
Save search off. You're saying?
You can try save search off, but I'm pretty sure these are official ones. Give me a second here, and I'll see if I can find them.
The racier, the better. You know, after hearing all of Ashihara's comments on things, I can only assume that, like, if maybe ratings for the World Trigger anime weren't great, he's like, well, just increase Kitora's bust size a little bit more, and then you don't have to worry about it. That seems to be a go-to solution.
I was just about to get into that, because not only increase bust size, but also, increase fan service when there's filler.
Was that a strategy of them?
I think it might have been one of their strategies. I know a lot of the fans online are currently striving for the second season, but it needs to be popular more popular to get people to watch it. And think Toei needs to just push a little bit more. And I can't find it, but it was Reiji and Karasumo that I think that was the worst episode I saw, where those two had like what they didn't have like the traditional like normal swimsuits. They had like the traditional Japanese men's swimsuits.
I'm trying to think what that even is. It's just like a Speedo thing, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I could see that. You know what? And that's part of like World Trigger in a nutshell, isn't it? Is that, you know, it's this fun series, but there's like this quiet undertone that it's like, yeah, it's also, you know, a show with a lot of hot-looking guys for all the, all the fangirls to get in obsessed over and things like that. It's like, hey, I know what worked for Prince of Tennis. I'm gonna take advantage of that. Let's get some more cute boys with problems.
Okay, Chris, I'm sending you a link to probably the only image I'm gonna be able to find so far.
I mean, these guys are all in very good shape, and I'm definitely feeling a bit intimidated based off that.
Oh, that's all right. I found another image, and this one has the neighbor princess.
Is that Nasu in those photos?
Give me a second. It might be.
Oh.
I feel so bad based off that. I always assumed she was just like deathly ill.
Oh, well,
They're dragging this poor sick girl out in a bikini to a Hot Springs episode.
The ironic thing is she's always calling Osamu out on always being straightforward.
Yeah,
that is true.
Maybe it's part of her therapy to get her out of bed.
Who's the girl with the green hair in the second shot?
That's the neighbor princess from the filler.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I don't remember
her
green hair.
Lilith.
Oh God, I just saw this one here.
They have Kitora in a swimsuit, by the way.
I mean, I still have part of that on my wall. Not like in a weird way. It was a gift from Jump that had like that promo image of all the female leads of series drawn by the Food Wars guy.
Yeah.
So I have that since it was a gift from Shonen Jump, like in a like frame, or not frame, but like put to the wall. And anyone who comes in is always like, "Why do you have a bunch of bikini girls on your wall? Are you weird?" I'm like, "No, it's a gift.
It's a gift.
I can't help that it happened to be a gift of bikini girls. I'm not
weird." Does it make you hungry every time you look at it?
Yeah, I'm always thinking about peaches, just like Bleach told me.
But there's this one I just saw, and I know that is the official because I think that came from like the Hulu translation and stuff like that. I can't remember her name now. I feel horrible. Tamakoma's operator.
Usami,
yes. I can't believe Usami, they had her say that.
I guess I'm more shocked because the line is, "How do I look in these saleswoman clothes? Don't fall in love," which is a questionable line to begin with. But I guess I'm more confused at the notion of like, is saleswoman like a kink in Japan? Like, is there a fetish for like the saleswoman attire? Is that like their sexy nurse or something?
I think Jen would know.
I think they turn anything into a fetish in Japan. All the fetishes start in Japan, and they just slowly seep out into the rest of the world.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna make a strong call that sexy saleswoman is probably not going to be in like the top Halloween costumes this year. I don't see like the real appeal in that one.
Not when the Wonder Woman movie just came out.
How do I look in this sweater and what is definitely at least past knee length plaid skirt? I think.
Buttoned up.
Yeah, with a lanyard and my name tag on it. Like I'm like, no, we definitely gotta show more midriff. That skirt's too long. I don't know how long it goes, but I can tell you it's too long.
hold,
If it
hold,
starts too long, there's a problem.
hold,
We can
hold,
see your name tag.
hold on. I have to keep my hair at least to just down to neck level, not any longer or any shorter than that.
Get the sleeves off this sweater, the midriff on the sweater. You know what? Let's just turn it into like a tankini kind of thing or something like that. Maybe actually just a couple band-aids over top of the nipples. That probably is. All right, this sexy saleswoman thing's starting to come together a little bit more.
Yeah.
Oh God.
We gotta put a price on that.
Yeah, just staple a couple like Sears coupons to your glasses. That's how I know you're a saleswoman or whatever, and go off of that.
Trigger on.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I think that might actually be a good way to transition into this. Besides Kitora, who's your favorite female character in World Trigger?
There are quite a few good ones. Um, Chica's actually been slowly rising up my list, just based on how much maturity she's gained over the past couple chapters or so, past couple volumes and battles and things like that. How she's really kind of grown into a much more fun character and a lot more of a intimidating presence. So I enjoy her a lot. There is a part of Konami I definitely enjoy. I think I need to see. I haven't yet fallen into her the same way I think Japan has, if only because she hasn't had as many chances to really be the emphasis or showcase of things. Like she hasn't had, I think, enough big moments just because she's never been involved in a match with Tamakoma really or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like Nasu Squad and Nasu Squad's entire team. They've always been really fun in my mind.
Yeah, I think their match was like one of the more fun ones. But I think that the adaptation of it in the anime really angered me, because they don't actually show like Chica blowing up the bridge in that match. You hear it happening, and the next thing you know, it's just you see the flooding from it.
That seems weird to do, considering that's supposed to be like the key element of that match, is blowing up the bridge.
Sorry, they showed the blowing up the bridge.
Joey.
They don't show her blowing up the retaining walls to keep the water at bay.
Okay.
So that might just been, I think, because of past traumas in Japan or something like that.
You really love you, Joey.
That makes sense.
Oh, yeah, because I was also trying, in one of my panels, I was trying to defend Chica. I had her on for a list of characters that nobody liked. And I said, no, she's actually like one of the better characters from the series if you sit down and look at it. But nobody would pick her because nobody at this con knew World Trigger. And I was trying my hardest to promote it.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that kind of has to just be accepted. It's not an insanely popular series, and that could definitely change, once the manga comes back and, if it gets into a big swing and things like that,
That's true.
That's when things could turn around for it. The longer series is running, is the more opportunities for people to kind of discover it. And
I have a question for you, though.
Sure.
What do you think about World Trigger as in getting more into the video game industry? Because there is a World Trigger game out, but it's only for the PS Vita. How do you think that we could possibly test the waters on, maybe trying to promote the World Trigger games and such to where we can, get other people's interest into that? Because another thing with World Trigger I see is that it kind of, lacks a little bit. It doesn't lack content, but it kind of lacks, like you were saying, in the popularity base. Like, it doesn't have, its niche yet. Like, right now, the only thing it has writing for it is, the manga, I would say, because the anime is not really popular, but the manga is. So what do you believe if there could be more of a video game type niche for World Trigger?
I mean, the fundamentals are there. I haven't played the PSP game, so I can't say I can't speak to the quality of it, but let's say in theory that the quality of it is equatable to the enjoyment of the manga. It's just a solid game with really fun characters. Like it captures the spirit well. It does that. I think the way to get people in is just to find ways to recommend it to people who are, enjoy that kind of game. I think there's an issue though in that not many games are going to come out or have come out previously that will get people into a fandom they weren't previously based on the game. And by that I mean, I don't know if there's a tremendous amount of people who say we're never Dragon Ball fans, but then played, the Dragon Ball Tenkaichi Budokai games, and we're like, holy shit, this is an amazing fighting game. I wonder what this series is about. Anime and tie-in games like that tend to have a niche that exists in trying to build off of that audience to begin with, especially because usually there are give and takes put into the mechanics of the process that are put in place to be as faithful as they can to the franchise it works off of. Like when the JoJo manga JoJo fighting game came out, they made note. They're like, hey, it's not going to be a balanced fighting game because we just, we want to make it fun for JoJo fans and things like that. And some characters just going to be better than others because of that. And that's sort of a process that's going to go into it. Like the most pure, I guess it's probably like a tactical RPG, the World Trigger game is. Even the most pure tactical RPG fans are probably going to find some issue with it. But even then, if it's still something that's recommended to them, you might get somebody who's like, oh, this game's kind of cool. I wonder what the game's about. I just don't know if you could expect to do it on like an enormous large scale. Unless you get like PewDiePie playing it, then maybe you got a different scenario going on.
Oh Lord. Yeah,
I thought PewDiePie was losing popularity lately, but
I feel like he still has enough. I feel like he's got more than I do, so I can't recommend to like, hey, I'll play that game for you. I feel like he's still got a bigger stock than or good enough stock for what you're looking for.
Maybe we can get MatPat to do it as a film theory thing.
Yeah, I mean, the more people who are talking about it, the more opportunities there are for viewers or casual people to come across it. I think a lot of people would enjoy World Trigger, they just aren't aware of it or don't know what it's about.
Or if we could get like the dub of the anime on like Toonami or something, because they are still dubbing it. It's just on this weird like Spanish like learning channel. It's really weird. We're on episode 16 right now, and I think that's about where they are in the dub. But I can't find anyone who's uploaded the dub online. Or, like, even going to the website, it's not even on their website.
Nope.
It's really weird.
Yeah, it is a curious decision if it's on a Spanish network, learning network like that. I would say, yeah, just anything you do to kind of help the exposure of it. I think one aspect that is true is just as you mentioned before with Team Odar, if the World Trigger Bridge series takes off, I mean, I could probably assume there are a lot of people who knew nothing about Sword Arts Online, but because they enjoyed the Abridged series so much, decided to check it out. That's just an aspect of it. The different ways you can get people to hear about this series is a new way to kind of expose them to it and to see and try to get a new fan out of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Chris, I know you have some other stuff going on. I don't want to tie up too much of your time if you feel more.
No, I could still go.
All right. Do you have any like, I guess, crazy theories? I mean, we're both caught up on our end with the manga as well. Do you have any like crazy outlandish theories that are going on? Like, for example, I think Yuma's father was actually like one of the founding members of Border, because like in the Yuma flashbacks, you see Yuma wearing a Border uniform in the neighbor world. So I'm wondering if that might have been part of it. That could have led to the shock of all the other branch directors higher ups at Border.
It's very possible. There's a lot kind of still contained within the mystery of the founding of Border, and particularly how that applies to Yuma. I mean, Yuma's dad is obviously somewhat important because the mere name of Yuma's family name was enough to kind of get him into Border at first. So there's definitely something there. As for like a big theory to the series, I've held on to this notion that the big arc, I don't know what you'd call it, I guess whatever the Great Ninja War or whatever you want to say for World Trigger when it eventually comes out, whatever the 1,000-year blood arc, whatever like I guess the conclusion arc for World Trigger is going to be, is I feel it's going to be an arc about trying to save Earth because its World Trigger is dying. They've made a point about how when worlds are dying, they need to find some kind of Trion power source to kickstart it and keep it going. That's what Africa Tours tried to do when they invaded Medan, I think is what they call
our world.
Yeah. So they're I feel as though it's going to be a very relevant kind of thing to eventually start to address the notion that Medan's life cycle is coming to an end, and how then do they restart it? As they've kind of gotten into a lot of philosophical questions in this series, by and large, I feel like that'd be a really interesting one, because then you have to start addressing like, well, what are we willing to sacrifice to keep this planet going, or things like that. I think that would be a very telling thing, and essentially because it's also the name of the series, I feel like it would be the likely place for the series to move at one point is dealing with Medan's World Trigger.
That I can see that. I think we brought it up as kind of a off-topic theory in one of our earlier episodes. I'm trying to think of what else. Renji, do you have any other theories? I'm trying to recall some of mine.
Well, one of the theories I have is that Osamu being like, because I remember in the manga seeing someone looking very similar to him in Border, being one of the founders, and like, but he was one of the people that went missing. And I'm trying to figure out, because what if Osamu's dad has ties to Border? Another thing that gets me in the middle of all that is whenever you were mentioning Yuma's dad, and they didn't really, because they had more of a, instead of a positive, reaction, it was more like a negative reaction to Yuma's dad, because as you could tell, like, the air around the room completely shifted once they figured out who it was. But as soon as Osamu mentioned that Yuma's dad had passed, then everyone seemed to be more relieved. So it's to my, suspicion that whatever happened to Yuma happened to Yuma at that time. I believe maybe someone from Border was an assassin that came to, get rid of Yugo, but instead of getting rid of Yugo, they, target his son first, to get a reaction out of him. Pretty much, they were like, yeah, if we go after Yugo's son, then Yugo's, probably going to sacrifice himself and become a black trigger. So we won't have to deal with Yugo anymore. We just deal with his son, because his son won't know anything. So I kind of think that Border, because of how they don't like neighbors, and Yugo being one of the founders of Border, being a neighbor as well, doesn't really sit right with them. And I think it's because of Kido mainly, because Kido doesn't like neighbors to the point where, like, they'll accept neighbors, but deep down, like, they don't really want to have anything to do with them. And it's kind of, to me, like, later in the story, they're going to try to dispose of Yuma again. Like, I don't think they've come to a point where they're not going to do it. Like, to me, it's just, I feel like it's going to happen. Like, they're going to do something, try to do something to Yuma again. It's just, right now, it doesn't fit within their goals to try that. So, yeah, I think that in one of my theories, Border had Yuma's dad to be executed, and part of the reason why they were upset when Osamu mentioned his name is because that would kind of screw up all their plans if he was still alive, right?
Yeah, in theory, that would definitely be a problem if they had tried to have him killed and then he was still alive to tell everyone about it.
Yeah, so I believe that's one of my main theories so far is that Border is really not a good organization. Like up on below the surface, I don't think they're a good organization.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the neighbors come to the. I don't think the neighbors come there to meet and just to capture people and use them for Treon. I think there's another issue with that Border may have done something or may be doing other things to neighboring worlds that other neighbors don't like. Like you gotta imagine, they don't like meeting people don't like for neighbors to come to their world. So how do you feel? How do you think the neighbors feel with meeting? Going to their worlds.
Yeah, there's definitely a real possibility of this being a danger. It's always that like unanswered question too of what was the thing that killed Yuma originally.
Yeah,
kind of required that. Like, there's still the issue of like, was that a neighbor? Was that some kind of artificial being? Like, what was it? And when is it going to make a return? I can't imagine we're not going to see that thing show up again at some point.
That's the thing that scares me.
I kind of had a theory that was going to be like one of the first opponents they see once Tamakoma goes into the neighbor world. And unfortunately, I don't have anything like real earth-shattering like you two have. My general theory is that the way that Osamu is going to basically grind up his Trion ability, it should just literally be, he should always just be in his Trion body. Just kind of like how you train your muscles to make them stronger. It just maybe constantly use it to increase the well of his Trion. I don't know if that's ever crossed your guys' minds.
It's possible. Yes. Yeah. I think they're making a big deal about how he's doing everything he can to try to take advantage of every little bit of Trion he has right now, particularly like in utilizing the spider and things like that. So I think they're going to definitely try to make use of that as much as they can. But the well is there for them to essentially move in the direction of Osamu's increased his abilities. Now he can use some new toys, or he has different ways of enabling special triggers or things like that. That's absolutely something they can move to.
Now that you mentioned special triggers and whatnot, what do you think should be Osamu's next new trigger?
That's a tough question. He already has a couple things he utilizes very well, and I feel as though Osamu tends to work best with relatively simple triggers that have a lot of flexibility to them depending on the way you use it, because he finds very creative ways to get uses out of them. So perhaps he might find a way to get a lot of usage. I forget what the name is, but the giant bulwark kind of shield that gets created, maybe he could find some way to utilize that.
Escudo.
Yeah, Escudo. That might be a possibility. Or it could be something kind of like Spider, where we don't really know much about it until it's introduced. Obviously, the Spider had its moment back during the whole retrieval arc or whatever we're calling it. But there's, I guess, a lot of options on the table, and then there's just the idea that something new could be introduced.
I think so as well.
Tamakoma 2 was also kind of given a hint to being a place where new triggers are developed, so it's possible he might get something experimental or something very unorthodox and kind of fits to his style of playing, or so to speak.
Mm-hmm. What would you think of him getting a trigger like, let's say, the teleporter?
It definitely is something I could see him getting a lot of usage out of. It would be one of those things though where you have to think like how how viable is it for somebody with limited Tryon? Because you'd imagine the ability to instantly transport your matter somewhere else would probably be something that would be taxing to your Tryon. Similar to the way that like Osamu tends to not use the bagworm for too long because it just drains too much Tryon and things like that. It feels like something that he definitely could use that, but I feel like it would have to be something where they're just like, look, you can use this once or something like that. Like there'd be a condition to it, definitely.
I was thinking on the lines of that. Like, since he's a shooter, like he could be maybe like a trick shooter, maybe like teleport and have like bullets in front or above, or be able to teleport to his teammates after he set up his his zone areas and be able to maneuver a bit faster. But like you said, that's kind of taxing on the Trion. So
one option, and it hasn't been explored as being even something in the game, but the way to kind of almost think of Osamu's fighting style right now, and the strength he's managed to get out of the last few fights has become him kind of realizing what his role on the team is to be, and that's somebody who kind of supports and enables. I wouldn't be shocked if instead of the idea of him gaining a power that lets him teleport, if he had something that allowed him to almost create doorways or create ways for his allies to instead move long distances or even just short distances. I don't know if you guys play League of Legends at all, and I'm sure there's equivalent characters in other MOBAs, but the character of Bard has the ability to just create like a portal on terrain that if you go into it, it shoots you out the other side. So even something like that, where Osamu himself may not be the one utilizing it so much, but what if he creates a situation where he gets an enemy engaged on an enemy attacker and he lures them into a place where he knows, Hyrene, or not Hyrene, who's the new guy that just got, whose name Husei, that's it. So Husei is on the other side, and Osamu slaps this wall thing on, and it opens up a door that allows Husei to come in from a place nobody realized he was quite at yet, and he just comes in and launches onto the offensive. Just something like that enables Osamu to help continue to get the most out of his teammates,
I was almost wondering, maybe what if instead of the bagworm, if you use like the chameleon or something, or does that drain faster than the bagworm?
I don't think chameleon's a good idea.
I think the notion was that the chameleon drained even faster, since it gives you actual like legitimate visibility as long as you're not like able to follow, I guess, whatever visual distortions they create or whatever, or you're not able to predict their attacks. Like at least with the bagworm, it's like a radar in like a Star Wars series or something like that. It's like you're invisible until someone looks out the window and sees you, more or less. But I assume the chameleon, because you're actively becoming invisible, would consume even more.
Okay.
And again, it all kind of applies just to what Osama's been kind of getting out of his most recent fights, which is you don't have to be the guy who gets 100 points on your team. You don't have to be the guy that takes down 3 enemies. As long as you create an impact for your team and you enable the guys on your team, you enable your teammates to be the best they can be, that is what being a captain's about. That's what you are fulfilling your role. That's kind of the place I see Osamu going in the future, is just more ways of utilizing that concept, more ways of him saying, like, what can I do to make Chica more effective? What can I do to make Yuna more effective? What can I do to help my team be better?
Definitely, I can see that too.
But right on the spot.
I'm almost wondering if there's a way for him, and I know this is almost blasphemy about to say this, but what if he becomes like another, like, kind of more like how Wendy is in Fairy Tail, like some finding a way to like boost.
He cuts his hair and then immediately grows it right back. It was an important haircut. He had a lot to say.
I know.
Grew it right back, but.
I know. What's her name? No, like just kind of like the true white mage of their group, like just boosting.
Oh, he literally like finds a way to like just be like, all right, I'm gonna give it a little try, and I have to make Yuna a little bit faster, or
something like that.
I'm gonna do this to increase everyone's defense or something like that.
Exactly.
I could definitely see it. I don't know if they want to go as like Stonewall video gamey as that concept is, in the notion of like I raise everyone's defense rating or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
I could definitely see him applying that way. I like the best way I almost kind of see Osamu is like he's trying to be a carry support, which doesn't exist, but he's just trying to be an effective support. And you don't notice when a support makes a really good play in a MOBA, generally speaking, because everyone's going to go right to who got the kill or who did the most damage, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still a very critical way of showing it, and that's what the manga has been effective at so far, is just showing how what Osamu does is still impactful. It doesn't have the flair as what everyone else is doing, but they show how important it was to the actual conclusion of things. So I could just see them enabling more things like that. Maybe he has an ability, or maybe he just uses something to impair people's vision for a moment. And Yumo is just so capable of kind of taking advantage of a split second, lack of concentration, that he's able to take advantage of those and get quick shots in and maybe even kills. Just the idea that someone's going to focus on doing.
Amazing, because he used to do that with the whole the spider and the grasshopper. That was crazy.
Yeah, like it's just this notion that Osamu's going to try, and hopefully this is the direction he goes. He's going to just try to find any way he can to set up these kills. It's tough. You mentioned it earlier. It's almost as though that it's easiest to explain this series through terms of MOBA. He's going to do everything he can to set up his carry, to get them their kills, to feed them their money, get them their items, everything he can do, protect them in lane, and then, the end of the game, maybe he's not as relevant, maybe he's easily killed and things like that, but it doesn't matter because he got all of his money, and now he can just kill everybody. Chica's too tough to dive, and she takes everyone out from afar. All those kinds of concepts.
You gotta feed that. You gotta feed that lane. You gotta feed the heavy attackers.
Exactly.
I'm almost wondering, like, I just came up with this idea too, hearing all this stuff out. What if he gains like the solar flare from Dragon Ball's ability as a trigger, and like just a sudden like bright light burst that just blinds everyone else?
It's certainly possible. I think that's something you can get a lot of advantage out of. It seems like, again, it's one of those triggers where I feel like there's got to be some kind of condition to it or something like that, because it feels like one that, if it was available, you feel like more people would take it.
Mm-hmm.
But it may be that that's something you I could definitely see that being something that would take advantage of, that just that instantaneous kind of thing. And if that's what happens, then that's what Osamu would kind of utilize. I think the sort of thing we have to still see is we haven't yet really fully gotten a grasp for how Hyusei is going to be in rank war fights, and then obviously later on when they actually go on missions. So that's going to be like an element to still see. We've seen how he can enable Yuma. We've seen how he's helped out Chica, but seeing what he can do with Hyusei and how they can kind of synergize is something that still
that's going to be like, because of I think Hyusei himself, like, you probably know this too, like, I think he has like a slight issue with Osamu, and that's when I see them butting heads.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's an asshole. Like he's a blunt dickhead when he wants to be, essentially. And they definitely hinted at the notion that this is going to be a challenge for him because, he's friends with everyone else, but Hyusei's not here for friends. I think he's literally said at one point or another, maybe not in those direct words, but he's not here for that. He's here to be, to do his job that's going to get him back home. And if he feels that Osamu isn't doing the best job, then he's like, I'm going to go AWOL on you, essentially. I'm going to say, F your order.
Yeah.
Style.
I couldn't be Osamu in that situation. Like, that is extremely stressful. Having somebody on your team that you don't really have, control over. Like, they're literally just gonna bulldoze you at any moment. Like, you can't show any sign of weakness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, That's oh my goodness, and I can already see it right now that something happens, and then like maybe him or Chica like don't don't see eye to eye for a moment, and he's not gonna follow Osama with orders. Like he's not.
Now I
Even
gotta.
if
Yeah.
it's gonna give them a win, even if it may give them a win, he's not gonna follow his orders.
And certainly to the extent if he doesn't feel it's the right move. And we've seen that Husey has a very specific way of thinking. He's very much somebody who kind of evaluates people and judges them based on their capabilities. So I feel like he will follow Osamu up until the point where he feels as though he's like, this kid isn't worth his rank, and I'm not going to follow him anymore. And the fact that there's 2 missions before the decision is made on who goes on the away team is a pretty big indicator that there's probably going to be a step backwards for Tamakoma too, just narratively speaking. If you want to put the most weight on the last match, then Tamakoma has to lose a little bit in this since they're already right on that cusp. So I wouldn't assume like a complete meltdown is in the works for them, but there'd definitely be a stumble, I think, with Osamu and Husey that kind of has to feed into the development of the final match.
I almost see them placing
Definitely.
third in this next rank war whenever the new chapters come out. Kind of like saying, yeah, they showing that they have improved, and if Hughes may have actually worked better, they could have placed higher.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of putting a little more weight on that as well. But I think.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, because they got to deal with Nino Mia, and that guy's a beast. Like he should definitely like he's a griefer.
Are they fighting Ninomiya in the next one? I thought it was.
Yes.
Was it? I thought I remembered it was Kageura, Suzunari 1, and
Nino Mia.
I thought it was Azuma's squad involved in this one. I'm trying to remember. Like, part of me feels like Azuma's squad was in there for some reason.
I thought it was too, but I'm trying to remember. But I thought it was like a complete rematch.
Yeah, I feel like it definitely wasn't. I know Suzunari 1 is in there because I knew it was a chance. I felt like that was a chance for them to get a little bit better and for Ko to kind of get a little bit higher in the ranks. They probably wouldn't crack the top 2, but this would be a good reason then to also say, hey, this guy is so good, he's definitely going to be on that B squad away team, reserves or whatever they were going to call them, like the special people who are good enough to be on the team anyway. So I could definitely see that playing into it. But I couldn't remember who the other teams were, definitely. I feel like Ozma Squad was in there, and because that they only fought one of Kageura or Ninomiya, and I felt like it was Kageura. But it's possible Ninomiya is in there, and I'd be super stoked about that because I think Ninomiya is super cool. Annalise, come at me.
Ninomiya is the GOAT in World Trigger.
He is. He's that Tom Brady character. And you hate him, but you love to hate him because he's so good. You're watching perfection happen in front of us.
Like he's just too good. Like I can't even put a spec on it because he's too good in the setting that he's in. Like he's a it's not right. It's not fair to the other people in Border for him to be in that spot.
No, it's not, and that's actually something that I'm curious to see develop because it's definitely a notion that was kind of thrown out there that they're not supposed to be in that spot. They kind of only are, presumably as a punishment for what happened with what's her name, the member of Border who she was with Ninomiya's squad. She was one of the people that went into the neighbor's world.
Oh yeah,
I'm
without permission.
It's not like Hinata. That's not it. I feel like Hinamori. Is that it? Was there a Hinamori in World Trigger? I'm really bad with names. I apologize.
I am too. I'm trying to remember if that was a name because what's his name? Yuzuru, the sniper.
Yeah,
I'm correct. Yeah, Yuzuru. So. Yeah, she was his mentor.
Yeah, I can't remember what the name of the individual went, but they were Ninomiya was associated with them when they disappeared. It sounded as though the punishment for that fell onto Ninomiya's squad, and because of that, that's why they are no longer they're not an A rank unit. And they're kind of working their way back up because they definitely have sort of noted that they should be in A rank. Like they're definitely talented enough to be
there. Because I can tell you this right now. They're miles, and this is sad. But I think you'll agree that they're miles above the squad that Kitura's in.
Oh, Arashiyama squad?
Yeah, Arashiyama squad. They're.
I mean, definitely. There's some kind of element there that seems to suggest that it's partially because of their role as sort of the public relations squad that maybe is part of the reason they're in there. But to be fair, we haven't gotten a real good glimpse of what they can do in combat outside of that one sort of quasi-scuffle they had back during an arc a long time ago. I mean, it's sort of a joke that the one dude's like specialty is like, I'm a double sniper, walk, walk. But there has to be something to that. Like, there has to be something to the squad. Like, we've seen that Kitora is very capable, and she has a lot of respect of people. We've seen that Arashiyama himself is definitely a capable person, but we haven't seen that group in a full-on sort of element that really exposes who they are. We haven't seen them in a rank war, so to speak. We haven't had a way to really gauge how effective they are as a team in comparison to everyone else, since we've seen most other squads in some form of combat like that.
Right.
Even Kazuma squad, we saw them going up against a big gloppy meanie spike dude back during the invasion arc. We saw how they work together.
Right. And it's another thing, but I think Arashiyama squad is ranked 5th among all A-rank squads, if my memory serves.
Yeah, they're the 5th rank squads. I can't remember if the ranking after being A rank matters all that significantly or not. I can't remember if they're if they could be bumped down to 6th ranked or if it's just a certain number of A ranks that exist out there.
I think it's a certain, because if I remember correctly, back when Kitora was still kind of in full on, I'm better than you, I'm going to do my Boa Hancock looking down on you style of things. She said that it was I think it was the top 5% of border agents or something like that.
Yeah, well, I think they've only noted there being either 8 or 9 squads to begin with, that are actually A rank. You got Miwa squad and Kaku's unit, whatever one Midorikawa's in. So there's a limited number of them. I just don't know if they actually rank them based on strength. I know Tachikawa's group 1, and they seem to be the most powerful team with the number 1 attacker and one of the I forget the number 2 overall shooter in Izumi, and then Uega, who just happens to be there. But I don't know if they follow a pure team 2's better than team 3. And so on and so forth. I don't know if it follows that specific of a rule.
Well, there was something that I remember Kitora saying that they were the 5th rank A squad while still being the PR team. So I think there is some sort of ranking system that still applies to them, but it's because they are the PR team that we don't see them as much in the battles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And now I have one more question that I've been dying to ask. Chris.
Yes.
What is Junior's trigger set?
Junior's?
Yes.
Oh, from Ruby the manga?
Yeah.
I mean, he's the most significant character, so I feel like he's this special snowflake kind of character where he has a trigger, but all of them are individual black triggers for some reason. Because a lot of people would just sacrifice themselves for Junior. They're just take my power, Junior Sama, and they die for him. So he's kind of got this Swiss Army knife. I imagine they kind of actually look like giant fidget spinners, his triggers, and he just spins them, and they have all these crazy, unique world trigger or black triggers shooting out of them and do all these wacky effects. I mean, he's the most important character, so that's why.
Obviously, that's why I had to ask.
Yeah, it's good to know because it's something to like kind of look forward to. He's probably actually the guy who killed Yuma at the beginning. It's just like that was one of his triggers, was just to turn him into some like ambiguous monster person. But then afterwards, he was like, "No, I'm back to being the bouncer at a bar. Make sure I'm on the cover page because I'm an important dude going forward."
Oh my God, Junior's the one
You
that
got him to do it. You got him to do it, man. I can't believe it.
I can't. I just realized Junior's the one that stole all of Osamu's original Tryon ability.
Yeah, he's a real shit, But do you want to stop him? Do you want to get in Junior's way?
He's also the one who was able to, be the first to bang Osamu's mother and be able to bail out.
Oh yeah, he's a real cad, that one. Just no respect for people, but you can't stop him. Again, it's that Tom Brady thing. Like, you hate him, but you have to respect that he's the best damn player at the game at the same time.
You would leave it to him. He probably, he invented duck faces.
He did. He was like, Yuma, let me tell you what the deal is, all right? You have your neutral expression, it's fine, but what you could be doing is something more unique, something more distinct, something that resembles the number 3 in, I don't know, squinty eyes or something.
God.
And I feel as though in any panel you're not, like, shouting angrily at somebody. You could be doing this instead. He's probably the primary motivation for a lot of things. Like, he showed up in early Naruto, little Sasuke staring outside of his burning village. He's like, you know what I feel like you should be? A lot more angsty about this. Like, you could kind of, like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, try to think responsibly about this, maybe talk to your brother first before just assuming, like, a death crush on him. But don't do any of that. Just immediately go with the first thing that comes to your mind. Here's this Linkin Park album. Listen to it. It's going to tell you everything you need to know. And just go from there, kiddo.
Oh my God, I just realized he's the one that gave Asami, or in Food Wars, he gave Asami the motivation to take over the school.
Yeah, he did. He was like, hey, this school's been pretty fun thus far. I mean, you've had, like, wacky stand battles and things like that. But wouldn't it be cool if everyone cooked the exact same thing and you were just a sinister motherfucker about it? That'd be great.
Oh, God.
I would put it past him that he was the one that hit Yuma in the car that was driving.
He's been behind every hit and run in the beginning of history. He was the one that ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin in the back. He's been behind all those accidents that have, like, injured old ladies and things like that. He's just like, he's got places to be. He can't be dawdling around. He wields a vehicle like a weapon. It's just who he is. He doesn't know how to use something without hurting someone.
That's not fair, though. Like, how could we let him get away with this?
It's simple. He was the first Wizard King in Black Clover.
Yeah. Look, do you want to mess with the Pirate King, the Wizard King, the Hokage, and the Soul King?
Oh, God, no.
Well,
he probably has One Piece.
Don't mess with Junior, yeah. He has One Piece. He has the other arms of Reo or whatever nonsense Bleach had towards the end. He has all the powers. He has the Deep World Trigger. No one knows, like, what that means, but he has it. He's not shy about mentioning that to you. He has the Nisekoi. He has everything.
Wait, I thought Nisekoi was false love.
Yeah, he has the false love. He has the Nisekoi.
Oh my goodness.
People didn't think there was a tangible thing to obtain in that series, but he has it.
Oh my God,
I'd like for that to be real, though. I mean, it gives you hope, but
oh my God.
How he works around that.
He's the one that invented the heart of the cards and taught it to Yugi's grandpa.
He actually goes a step beyond it. He's actually the device that manipulates card games to make them as dramatic as possible in that series.
Stop.
So, should he battle anybody, he would ensure that their hand is nothing but worthless trap cards at the start of it, and he had like a one-win combo at the beginning.
Oh, so he just always draws Exodia.
Yeah, basically. He's like, I had Exodia in my starting hand.
Oh, he's that one guy in D&D that's the freaking, the dungeon master, and he can't make up his mind.
He just has everything. He's just like, yeah, I decided to pick one of each class, but I took 20 levels in it.
But the only reason he's doing all that is because he's preparing for his legendary battle against Saitama.
Yeah, and that's one where we don't know where the real conclusion is going to be. You know, who is this going to be an opponent he can't beat in one punch, or what's going to happen?
We know he won't be defeated in one punch, but I don't think Junior can defeat him, even no matter how hard he tries, even with the fidget
But that's not
spinning.
fair. But then that kind of breaks the whole. No, you guys, that's wrong. Saitama won't be one punch man anymore if he can't beat Junior in one punch.
Well, here's the thing. It's going to be one punch the fight's going to be decided with, but it's going to be a one punch like in JoJo Part 4 or Part 5 at the end, where like one punch essentially sends them into a sequence of like constant lifetimes of clashing to have all these different conclusions. That's all the like new universe consequence of that one punch they first had. So that's how they kind of settle it, is all being within one punch. It's kind of like an Inception scenario. You know, you don't have to wait to see if the top falls or not. The point is that he walked away from it. You know, he's not being consumed by it anymore. It's okay now.
Oh my God.
Goodness.
They're gonna end up.
I guess you could say Diamond is breakable.
They're gonna end up in the same universe as the Chuck Norris and Segata Sanshiro battle.
They're gonna be everywhere.
Yeah. All right, well, Chris, I think we're getting close to your time limit here.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to wrap up here a little bit.
All right, well, thank you again for coming on. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, I was very happy to be on. I've missed having the opportunity to talk and wax about World Trigger. It's something that I love dearly, and I miss being able to speak about on any kind of regular basis. So I greatly appreciate being on this wonderful show and getting to talk World Trigger with equal fans.
Well, again, thank you very much. Hopefully we can probably bring you back on for a special episode once World Trigger comes back.
Fingers crossed. Any day now.
I've got more than just my fingers. I've got my toes. I got my eyes. I've got everything that I can cross.
Yeah. Leave it to Junior, though. He's probably over there holding Ashihara by the neck.
What I like to think is he's actually over there repairing Ashihara's back. He's like a miracle worker. He's like Doctor Strange. You know, he's doing that surgery that's going to fix him. Junior's not a bad guy all around. Yes, he hits old ladies with his car, but then he helps non-creators to like get healthy again. So, it's a give and take.
I thought he was trying to find a way to bring Pearl Jam to real life so he could give it to Ashihara to replace his back.
It very well could be.
All right, well, guys, I think it's about time for us to trigger off.
Man, I would. It was really fun to have you on, Rollot. Like you. Oh my goodness.
It has been a pleasure.
I need to. I need to calm down.
Do you need me to have like a power off sound effect, like pew?